what are the venues where you can, or rather avenues where you can spend your 2000 rupee note in case you have it? And one way that people are doing it, and a lot of markets are reporting a lot of rush because people are hoping to dispense off their cash. Also, Zomato yesterday said that more and more transactions are now happening in cash, Karthik.
72%. In fact, on Twitter, it said 72% of its transactions were cash on delivery, and a bulk of those were 2000 rupee notes. But see, avenues continue to be a plenty. As long as it is legal tender, you and I, if we have the 2000 rupee note, I don't, you perhaps would.
Not at all,
you don't. Okay, but avenues are a plenty, and legally, no kirana store or no retail outlet or no avenue where you transact using any monetary form can refuse accepting the 2000 rupee note. But 2000 rupee note is high value, and people who have a lot of those are finding some solace in 2-3 very specific sectors. One, of course, being jewelry, gold and silver, precious metal, precious gems, rare gems. These are obviously, like we had seen even after demonetization of 2016, people who held on to their demonetized cash at that time found some solace in in the neighborhood friendly jewelers, and they went ahead and they exchanged their notes. So yeah, so jewelry both in the formal and informal space is seeing some offtake, greater than usual offtake, with cash being king again. In addition to that, of course, we are looking at petrol pumps where people want to get their tanks filled with petrol or diesel using cash instead of card or UPI. Online food ordering, you mentioned Zomato, so yeah, that is true, but there are also reports published where other e-commerce players, in addition to Zomato or just food delivery, other e-commerce players are also seeing and are expected to continue seeing a greater uptake in cash on delivery options. And the expectation is that once these parcels get delivered at home on a COD, the note that is likely to come out to make the payment is likely to be a pink color 2000 rupee note. So cash on delivery on e-commerce is, of course, one chunk, and I think we had this on our show yesterday as well, and this is something that has now been corroborated in other reports and other agencies filing these reports as well, that white goods, consumer durables, refrigerators, air conditioners alike, these again, televisions, these are again high value purchases, involve buying, and it's easy to sort of get cash discounts and get these objects picked up from a store nearby. So these are some sectors which are seeing a fairly robust demand and are likely to see a continued robust demand using cash as the denominator going forward.
So while there are sectors that are going to see more cash inflows, there are also sectors that will see cash crunch.
That's right.
And I'm assuming from my experience of 2016, realty is going to be one of them.
That's right. So realty definitely could be one casualty, and linked to that, of course, is construction, renovation, home improvement. These are categories where the labor is usually paid in cash, and if this cash is sucked out of the market, sucked out of the economy, making these payments, especially to the labor class, which despite Jan Dhan and despite the best efforts of the government and the digitization, may not have bank accounts, may not be willing to accept a UPI based transaction. Also because quite often their bank account is linked to a phone number which has changed over time, and hence transactions get blocked, or their bank account is registered to an address in their hometowns, in their villages, and KYC has not been updated, and frequent changes of mobile phones, mobile numbers, largely because of lower education. These become challenges for the labor class, and hence making payments to them in any digital form becomes difficult. And of course, genuine tax-paying citizens will not want to continue holding on to the cash, so they will go and they will deposit or exchange their cash for lower denomination. If that happens to be the case, lower denomination notes, of course, can make it back to the laborers, but if they're depositing the cash at home back in their bank accounts, then these sectors could take a hit. And somebody I was speaking to, interestingly, an architect friend of mine, also said that hardware stores where you pick up, again, this is linked to home furnishing, home improvement, etc., but hardware stores still continue to be very cash based. And that is one more sector which could take some sort of a hit.
Okay. My assumption is because many, and this is purely with the way it works in your day-to-day transactions, and that is when you go to a shopkeeper, a small shopkeeper may not be very confident of their ability to exchange that 2000 rupee note, but when you go to big retailers, they're more than welcoming because they know they have the avenues, they have
That's
the
right.
necessary resources, and I think interesting point to mention there that labor class, people who belong to an economically weaker section of the society are likely to take most hit because firstly, they're not a part of the banking system, they're not formally a part of the banking system, find it very, very difficult to either open a bank account or do not have a bank account. That's number one. Number two, they are not really aware of where to exchange this note. They don't have the time, they don't have the luxury to go to a bank and get this exchange. So while we're talking mostly about the middle class that has access to banking facility, access to banks, labor class, people who are in the economically weaker section of the society are going to take the most hit when it comes to dispensing of whatever money they have. And they don't have a lot of money. They may have a couple of 2000 rupee note, but even that is going to be very difficult to exchange that for a lower denomination.
That's right. And usually these notes, again, in the class of people that you're talking about, are not used for day-to-day transactions, but rather used as a rainy day reserve and used as as just a backup in case they need to.
And sometimes it's the salary that you get.
That's right.
And in fact, interesting because I was speaking to someone who knows somebody who's a part of the construction sector, and they said that they don't know whether they should accept the money anymore because they don't know first that it's going to be a legal tender. So I did end up educating them. You can accept that money, but remember they were getting this as their salaries.
Yep.
So salaries are paid in a couple
cash.
of notes of cash of 2000 rupees, and they make up for the bulk of the money that you get through the year or through the month.
True.
So in that case, it's going to be extremely very difficult for people who are not formally a part of economy, not formally a part of banking structure, to be able to find some sort of consolence in what is going to happen. But of course, the move is going to happen over a span of 3 to 4 months, so they have enough time, and I think the government has enough time to clarify. Do's and don'ts have now come out, but we'll have to see and wait and watch out for the repercussions of the move, and we will keep tracking that story. But
let's see if Amit has happened to get to a jewelry store anywhere near
do
security.
Do we have Amit at a jewelry store? He is walking down to a jewelry store as we speak. We will try to, of course, get him back, because that's the most important story of the day, the 2000 rupee note that was in a sense demonetized, withdrawn from circulation. The exchange process starts today. We will keep tracking the developments regarding the 2000 rupee note throughout the day today. But moving on to a very important story that we broke
Shweta,
yesterday.
before we move on to that, I just want to, for the sake of our viewers, and hopefully until Amit also reaches there. Amit, we'll just come back to you in a second, but I think it's also important to highlight specifically what the RBI Governor, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, said yesterday, and there are 4 salient features which I think are important in the larger context of the economy. Number one, he has said that this withdrawal is unlikely to have a very adverse impact on the economy. So I think all fears around the economic impact by way of withdrawal of 2000 rupee notes, he has sort of, put a rest and put a sort of, very clean full stop to it, that there is unlikely to be an adverse impact on the economy. He's also come on record and stated that there is no shortage whatsoever of lower denomination currency notes, and there is absolutely no way that you would go to a bank and the bank would fall short of the currency notes in exchange of the 2000 rupee note. Number 3, he has asked banks to ensure a smooth exchange process, no hassles, no harassment to people coming in to exchange the notes. And of course, we were joking about it, but I think a valid point that a glass of water being made available in the scorching heat, especially in North India right now. You and I sitting in Delhi NCR, temperature touching 46.2 degrees in some parts of the city yesterday, expected to be above 45 degrees Celsius today as well. So I think an important factor there that, yeah, you've traveled to a bank and you're standing in a queue. Thankfully, Amit saw only 3 people, but these queues could eventually get longer. And you don't want a situation like dehydration or, or
And we
people
don't
falling
want
off.
the 2016 to repeat as well, because we
Correct.
saw pictures of men and women literally fainting
That's right.
in the long queues that were formed, people crying on streets because they lost a spot in the queue because they moved out for some reason. So I mean, those pictures were harrowing, and I
That's
don't
right.
think the government wants to see that repeating. We don't want
That's
to see
right.
that repeating
That's
as
right.
well.
And I think in addition to that, one last fourth point being that the reason behind this entire exercise has been to ensure clean money in the economy, and by clean, physically clean currency notes.
Right.
Not as much about black money this time around, at least that is not what has been stated on record. And despite all the political noise around it, the RBI governor has stayed clear of any political sort of interference, mentioning any political interference in this particular decision of the RBI, and has come onto record to say that it is the clean currency notes that need to be in circulation. So soiled currency notes, stone currency notes, or sort of disfigured currency notes need to be evicted out of the market, and
All
hence regenerate the same value with cleaner, crisper, sharper, newer notes.
Okay. Amit is standing outside a jewelry shop to give us a sense of how it's working there. Amit, is the crowd there as against what we saw in outside banks? Are people queuing up to buy more jewelry? Because jewelers are reporting, more customer inquiries. They're reporting more people coming in with cash to dispose of and buy precious metal.
Is that for me?
That is correct. It is for you, yes.
Yeah, I'm in front of Tribhuvan Das Bhimji Zaveri here. The jewelry shops have not opened as yet, but I spoke to some of the employees here, and they told me the same thing what I saw in the banks, that there is no unprecedented rush over here to basically do away with the 2,000 rupee notes in exchange for jewelry or anything.
Okay.
So that has not happened. So because they are not opened, I have not gotten the big people on camera. But I spoke to some of the employees who have come in early, and they said there has not been any unprecedented basically rush over here to exchange notes, even in these stores.
So that's good news. There isn't too much black money that people want to get rid of. But Amit, thanks for joining us.